Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are back with the best damn pod in the land. I'm your co-host, Chad Stryker. With me, as always, Dan Divjak. Dan, we did a fun show Friday, man, and at the very beginning of the show, I forgot to even say smash the subscription button or smash the subscribe button or whatever that is. So if you haven't done it for us or for Juck on Bucks, do it. That's what I have to say.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, man.
The subscribe button is huge for us right now.
It is. Yeah, it really is. So the analytics, you guys have done a great job on the comments and everything. And I'm just really proud of our show, man. Like, I think that we have, because of the people we get to talk to and the pod world kind of being so small, and we don't offer anything up like the beat does. Like we're just our own people. And so if you're looking for like the real raw content, we're going to give it to you. You know, I don't know about you, Dan, but that's kind of how I feel about our show and Juck's show.
Yeah, no, I mean, Juck's obviously on a different level than us right now, and
yeah, he is.
Couldn't
He's
be happier and more proud of him. I just think he's got an innate talent that a lot of people just don't have. So, obviously we appreciate him coming on the show with us. Yep. But, we just started this out for,
fun.
Yeah. And it's been fun. So mission accomplished.
Yep. Yeah. Juck, man, he's the hottest thing in Ohio State podcasting right now. He's on fire, man. I love that guy. I'm so proud of him. So
absolutely. He's got big things coming too.
So. He does. He's killing it, man. Absolutely killing it. So let's kick off the Trey McNutt news. You and I, we were kind of hashing it out a little bit. He was supposed to commit Friday. We talked about it over the weekend. He pushes back his commitment date into August. And of course, the Ohio State Twitter /X world is like, oh, this is good for us. No, it's not. So Dan, the Trey McNutt thing, we covered it on Friday, but I think we'll hit it again since there's a delay.
I mean, I've got to continue to position myself as the smartest man in the room, and I'm going to say picks OSU.
Okay, cool. I don't know, guys. Like, listen.
No, man. I mean, we don't even need to spend a lot of time on it, right?
No.
It is what it is. It's been a very bizarre recruitment. I can honestly say this. Nothing that we've heard, regardless of what it is, has actually come from Trey McNutt.
Yes, that's true.
Like, I haven't heard one person say, I spoke to Trey McNutt and he said.
Correct.
There's been some rumblings about what his mother has said to some people that we know.
Yes.
About the whole legacy issue.
Yes.
But I've never heard, Trey McNutt say anything that
I don't think he would either.
He's given his updates on visits and stuff like that, but he hasn't done anything to really show his hand.
Yeah. I mean, so here's I guess for what it's worth, and you and I both think a lot of Berm. And Berm has said from the jump, like he's never felt it with Trey McNutt. Anytime he's talked to him, he's never felt like, yeah, this is going to go Ohio State's way in the end. And I don't think any of us has felt that way. I know everybody has this assumption. He's an Ohio kid. He's Richard McNutt's son, Ohio State. But it is what it is. We are where we are. He pushed back his commitment date. I just don't see Ohio State. And can I just say this? I don't see them dropping a huge bag to try to keep up with A&M or Oregon in NIL. I just don't see him doing it for a safety that when we already have Fahim Delane, who's the best safety in this class.
And I'm not necessarily sure that his recruitment is 100% all about.
I don't think it is. No.
I mean, I do think it's
part of it.
Sure. And there are some people that have told me that he's going to the highest bidder. If the highest bidder happens to be somebody that he likes and it's not Ohio State because he's specifically not going to Ohio State, then I think that'll be coincidental. But, it could just be a thing where, here's the unknown part, right? And we're about to turn this horse into glue by beating it to death.
Yeah.
who really knows who is making the decision?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's truly about his mom not wanting him to be connected to Ohio State because of her relationship with his dad, then I mean, it's awfully hard to go against, as a kid.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
that's what it's about, that's what it's about.
Well, and I'll say this too, and I can't claim this as my own thought, but basically I read that if it was about the highest bidder, he probably would have signed with committed to A&M Friday night. And because A&M right now, I think they're coming after him very hard with money. So I think the kid just genuinely likes Oregon. I think Dan Lenning's a hot coach right now. I think it may change, probably at the end of the season when Oregon finishes like 9-3. But we are where we are. I mean, I right now I have Oregon as the fourth best team in the Big Ten. So until they prove it,
Wow, hot take.
yeah, I've always got one for each show, and honestly, I think they finished behind Rutgers in the Big Ten standings.
The opinions expressed on the best damn pod in the land are those of the individual co-hosts.
I'm telling you, man, I have a feeling about Rutgers this year. I just do. But all right. So other cool thing in recruiting, Victor Singleton, Toledo Central Catholic, who you get up around Toledo, there's Michigan fans, there's Ohio State fans, you've got some Notre Dame fans, you've got some Indiana fans. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge of everything in that area. There's you kind of you're right on the state line essentially up in that area. But crystal ball to Ohio State, 6', 160, a little bit of a slighter build, a little bit of a different corner than we've typically taken, in the past. Now let's, as you pointed out before, like he's a prototypical corner up until like recent years of Ohio State taking some lengthier corners. He does have some length to him. He's got a long reach. So class of 2026, I like him. Ohio kid. Michigan is in on him, but Ohio State's got in on him early. Tim Walton doing his thing. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Toledo is not a laydown for Ohio State.
Mm-mm.
And those people that think it is are just they're mistaken. They're
They are.
misinformed. The whipping boy this year so far is Justin Fry on the staff. Now that Parker Fleming is gone. And I've heard a lot of people say, really not giving him much credit for getting Carter Lowe out of Toledo. But
I just read that earlier today too.
I completely, vehemently, aggressively disagree with that take. So yeah, I mean, whenever we can pull a kid out of Toledo, it's a legit win against our rivals, and that's nice. And kid's highly rated. I think he's a top 50 kid. Third or fourth in the state.
Yep, 4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, our secondary is going to be loaded once again next year's class because we should have Rock Hill out of. Is he out of Hoban?
Akron Hoban.
Yeah. We should have Rock Hill in the fold as well. So
yeah, that's going to be a deep class too. So they'll continue to pile on, and Tim Walton, he's on getting on the Brian Hartline level. So speaking of Brian Hartline, Vernell Brown over the weekend committed exactly where I thought he would all along, which was Florida. Not really any news to me. Like, okay, your dad and your grandpa both played there, so makes total sense. I don't know about you, but I was not at all surprised.
Yeah, no, I mean it's hard to blame a kid for wanting to continue that legacy.
Correct.
In the family name, especially at a school like Florida. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's from the Gainesville area, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's right there. It's not shocking. I would have loved to have him in the fold. I think he's a dynamic playmaker. There were some rumors out there that he didn't even inform Billy Napier that he was picking Florida. Like Napier found out when everybody else did, and so I don't know. Does that mean that he's committed to Florida whether Napier's there or not, or does it mean that He's
Maybe
not
just a
high on.
surprise.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, that's the way I mean, we're old enough to remember that when the people had to make sure that the fax machine was warmed up. So when you would get commitments,
Yep.
So it's okay.
I remember when the fax machine had actual fax paper in it and not just good old fashioned 8.5 by 11.
You might be a little ahead of me on that one. Then I can't say I remember fax paper, but I'd have to search my memory bank. It was kind
of like that glossy tape register type paper.
Okay. All right. So Netflix, Dan. I don't even really have words to describe how I feel about it yet. I probably will on Friday. I'm sure you do. I think I'm just bothered by it. I think the Connor Stallions thing, I feel like they're going to put out some puff piece and it's going to just fan the flames of the belligerent Michigan fans to say, see, we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything wrong. It was all him. He is the lone wolf. So what do you think?
Sorry, man. I got Avery blowing me up. Yeah, so, man, I'm just... Is there a way to turn off comments retroactively once a post has been engaged with? Because I can't handle the stupidity of this fan base right now. Like,
I think
here are the things that I've heard over the last 12 hours.
Okay.
Sign stealing is not illegal. He was a coach doing his job. Just because he's a low-level, low-paid staffer doesn't mean that he's not important to the staff. Again, sign stealing is not illegal. Everyone does it. It was only restricted because, or advanced scouting was only restricted because of budgetary reasons. I can't.
Is that like the helmet?
They're the most delusional fan base, man. It's just the ignorance and the gaslighting and just the stupidity that is coming out of their mouths. And here's what's going to happen: is this Netflix thing is going to air, and one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to paint it in a "it's not a big deal" type of a thing, or he's going to take the fall completely for it to, liberate anybody else from anything. But just, I'll say what I always say: 13-page letter from the Big Ten.
Yeah,
indisputable, proven, and known evidence.
Yeah,
like it's just. I can't wait until this is all over.
Yeah. There's two things this fall that I cannot wait to be over. So
yeah, it's just the stupidity and the stupidity in that fan base is just overwhelming.
Okay,
and it's not all of them. Like
no, there's some decent Michigan fans.
There's guys like James Yoder out there that's realistic, and there's other guys that know that it was bad. But the people that are dying on that hill are just morons.
Yeah, I think that. One of the things and I think it was Juck that said it recently, that I just don't know. I don't know what really the NCAA can do anymore, because you can restrict scholarships, but NIL kind of circumvents that.
Postseason bans.
Yeah, the bowl bans, the postseason ban, or or especially with the big, with the expanded college football playoff, that would. I don't know. I who knows? It's all suspect, because that's why I messaged you guys and I was like, do you guys think that the NOA is going to come out like on August 26th or something right before that airs? Because what do they know that we don't know, and how are they allowed to do this, and how is he not on an NDA if Central Michigan is? I don't get it. So whatever.
Well, he's not an employee of the university anymore.
That's fair. I didn't think of that.
But here's the other thing, man. Like, the other thing you hear is, oh, well, we got caught mid-season and we didn't cheat after that. And it's like, oh, okay. Hey, honey, I'm sorry. I slept with 3 of our neighbors recently, but I promise now that you caught me, I'm not going to go and knock on the door of that hot single chick that just moved across the street. Like, Come on, dude. The guy's got a picture with the Big Ten championship trophy in the locker room. Yeah. The guy's got, he was at the after party for the national championship.
Yeah.
I don't think it's far fetched that they figured out a way to still use the information they had compiled from the previous 2.5 years, at least 2.5 years.
Yeah,
There are
that
some
we know of.
reports that it went back farther than 21.
Mm,
So it's just it's mind blowing to me.
I agree with you. It's wild. I mean, it's one of those things. So this, it's kind of along the trade McNutt thing. I'm just ready for it to be over with. Like, let's just tell us what you're going to tell us, and let's just and we'll talk about it for a little bit, and then we can move on. You know. So I called it a fake umentary, but
We'll see. Who knows, man? I mean,
yeah,
I hope they ask him the hard questions. I hope they ask him, was that you on the sideline at Central Michigan?
yeah,
Why did what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Like, I hope it's a true documentary.
yeah.
I mean, I don't see what the motive would be to try to, absolve University of Michigan from,
Well,
what they
Michigan's
did.
they've got alumni a little bit everywhere because look at EA Sports
You bring that
2025.
up.
The head dude is from Michigan, and he, definitely did some stuff against Ohio State because I think those 20 years of his youth where we throttled them every game made him cry a little bit inside. And so, uh, anyway, speaking of Michigan and the Big Ten and everything, it's officially Big Ten Media Days. So we are officially kicking off fall camp next week. Football is here. We've survived this summer. So I posed this in a way because I would like to just want to get your take on what you think of this. So Coach Day obviously took Emeka, Jack Sawyer, and Denzel Burke. They will all be in attendance at Big Ten Media Days. Matter of fact, Ohio State is this afternoon. They're the last people this afternoon. They joked and called it the Ohio State Day because that's what everybody's waiting on this to talk to Coach Day. Are you surprised that Tyleek, JTT, or Travion Henderson are not in that group?
JTT, which he hates that, so JT.
JT Tulimoloau.
I'm just going to go with JT. Tyleek, not so much. I mean, JT's never been a really
No, he's not.
face of the program,
Yeah.
outspoken guy. I think Tyleek's got a big personality, but still really not in front of the camera. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure Trey was a tough decision. Emeka, he's the leader of that room. He's, fourth year guy. He's chasing a record or two. Sawyer's, that's a given. I'm pretty sure he's going to have the block O. Denzel is the one that's interesting because Denzel's going to tell you how he feels about stuff.
Yeah, he comes off the lip of the cup for sure. Like he'll just say what's on his mind. Yeah,
he says what's on his mind. I love listening to him talk. I mean, he's a great soundbite. He did say something rather controversial recently during a stream in some game. I don't know if it was Twitch or Discord or whatever, but the whole quarterback competition came up, and he goes, listen, Ryan's a politician. And he was kind of insinuating that he makes choices that not necessarily everybody else is on board with. So, yeah, I mean, that one's a little surprising just because of the wild card of what he can say. But, listen, these guys probably had a good 3 or 4 hours with Jerry Emig, and they role-played questions and they role-played answers. And, it's,
Well, you know how Jerry is. He's not going to take any chances, man.
And that's smart in this day and age of social media. So, but I think those are three great representatives for the program. Three guys that could have all been first or second round picks last year.
Yeah,
that chose to come back. So, yeah.
I want to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
Well, it sounded like Lou Holtz was on the conference call with Kamala yesterday. I don't know if you've heard that, but And
No.
I'm not getting political. I'm just saying that Joe had a pretty big lisp there. It sounded like Lou Holtz doing his best impersonation.
Mm.
Um,
Well, I was referencing that because Jerry Emick told Ryan Day to calm down before he got on national TV and
Ryan said, "Watch this."
fired off. Yeah. So, Jerry is, he's a true PR guy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So today's schedule, press conference schedule for the Big Ten Media Days. You got Illinois at 11:30, Rutgers right now, maybe in a few minutes, actually. Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue, and then the Ohio State Buckeyes and Ryan Day. So, kind of a meh list. Shiato's funny, so there's bound to be a soundbite from him, and Bielema's funny, and then I think you're going to get a draw for Luke Fickell being his first year at Wisconsin, but the rest,
Yeah, you
I
got
don't
some
think.
big personalities there. I really like David Braun from Northwestern. He did it. If he didn't win awards last year, he should have. I
Yeah,
mean, what he was
he
able to do
tried.
with
Yeah,
what he was able to do with that program in light of everything that was going on.
yeah. And then
Um,
tomorrow you have UCLA, Iowa, Michigan State, USC, Nebraska, and finishes up with Penn State. So you've got Lincoln Riley and James Franklin and Matt Rule, and then you've got Jonathan Smith in his first year at Michigan State, and of course the old groundhog himself, Kirk Barons. So that could be interesting. I don't know why
I'm
I called him
interested
a
to hear.
groundhog. He just seems like a groundhog to me.
I'm interested in hearing Matt Rule. I really love that guy
Yeah.
as a coach. I think he's great.
And then on Thursday, you have Dan Lanning. This would be just a funny group to hang out with. Dan Lanning, PJ Fleck, Mike Loxley, Kurt Signetti, Jed Fish from Washington, and Sharon Moore. Like you want to I think it would like that's an interesting day on Thursday for sure. I might even just like put it on the in the background just to listen to these guys because I'm sure Dan Lanning has something to say. PJ Fleck's always good for some sort of row the boat soundbite. Mike Loxley's an idiot. Yeah, and then you have first time head coaches in Signetti and Fish and Sharon
Well,
Moore at
first
their
time conference head
yeah
coaches.
conference head coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So
a true first time head coach.
all right. So let's play a game, Dan. Let's play a game. What is the first controversial question asked of Ryan Day in Indianapolis?
Controversial?
Yeah, like who's gonna what are they gonna ask him? What do you think? Like,
I mean, I
I'll
think
use one.
if anybody asks a question about the cheaters up north,
Yeah,
try to get them to bite, that's probably as controversial as I think it'll get. I think some people will, press him on the perceived amount of money that was spent to bring the roster back and get a few big fish out of the portal.
Yep.
I don't know if that's really controversial or not.
I guess maybe that's the wrong word. What do you think they're going to ask him? What like if I'm Ryan Day, what are you asking me at media days? Because like Berm would tell me he's not going to answer.
Asking, or what are they going to ask?
Yeah, so Berm would tell me, and he's told me this before, like directly, because and adamantly, because I was like, just ask him about the quarterbacks, man, and he's like, he's not going to answer it. Why would I waste a question? So that's literally what he wrote back to me.
But it's Tim. Like Tim May has the best way of asking the quarterback question.
Yeah.
Have you heard the way he asks?
Yeah.
It?
So who do you have for third string?
Yeah. So Ryan, who's the backup quarterback going to be?
Yeah.
I love Tim May, man, and Ryan always gets a kick out of it. So we'll see if he does it again.
Yeah.
Here. Okay. So this is what Ryan Day is going to say. Are you ready?
Yep.
At Ohio State, pressure is a privilege.
Yep.
And we embrace that pressure.
Yep.
We don't take it lightly.
Yep.
And we've got the same goals every year. We got to beat our rivals, win the conference championship, win a national championship.
Yep.
So no one's got bigger expectations than we do of ourselves.
He sounds like Ryan Day right now.
The quarterback competition, we're going to be looking for somebody to separate themselves. We didn't really see it in the spring. one guy would pull ahead and the other guy would, pull ahead the next day. We were looking for them to separate. Not going to commit to when we're going to name that starting quarterback. Chip was patting me on my head when I was 9 years old on the Pop Warner field. We certainly go back a long way, and he gives me a comfort level that I didn't have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, I had one. I had one that I was curious if they would ask him about his feelings on Jim Harbaugh just leaving for the NFL and his possible NFL aspirations. That was one that I was like, maybe. And then the other one is, everybody's favorite question: is it Natty or bust? Yeah. Well, yes, it is every year.
Yeah, that's where the pressure. That's where you're going to get the pressure as a privilege.
Yeah. I mean,
comment, right? And he'll give credit to C.J. Stroud for saying that.
Yeah.
The NFL thing. If I thought about, I may go to a luncheon on August 1st when I go to that practice. If I go up to Columbus, and Ryan Day will be speaking, and if I get a chance to ask a question, one question I'd want to ask him is, most off seasons or throughout the year, we hear overtures about the NFL being really interested in you. You've done a really good job of avoiding that up to this point. How much does the work that you do with the mental health aspect to athletes that you and your wife are doing, how much does that keep you drawn to the college game and maybe prevent you from entertaining NFL?
Yeah,
I'd like to know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, he does have, yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the way that
I also think he'd appreciate that question too.
Yeah, I mean, the way they, he and his wife work towards helping mental illness, and then like I don't get super emotional about like anything really, a little bit about my kids, but when the Harry Miller thing broke, I mean, I just felt for that dude. Like you could just tell, like, he was really struggling, and that Ryan Day intervened, or he wouldn't be here. And then I flashed back to, and I like take this as it's meant, but Costa Cara George. So like I can't help but think if we had someone on staff as knowledgeable about those things as Ryan Day, hindsight's always 2020, but like the Harry Miller situation could have very much played out that way. So I appreciate Ryan Day for that as somebody who, an onlooker, a fan, and just the fact that like mental illness is rampant in our society. Social media does not help. Sometimes our comments on social media don't help either, so yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, of the coaches that are going to be there, who would you be most interested in just sitting down and having a cup of coffee with besides Ryan Day?
As far as the coaches go?
Yeah.
Coffee or beer?
Either one. Your dealer's choice.
I probably want to have a beer with Brett Bielema.
Okay.
Just because I think he'll lie and tell some really good stories.
That's a good one.
If I want to sit down and I mean, I've mentioned it before, man. I'm a huge fan of. There's a lot of people I can pick here. I'm a huge fan of Matt Rule.
Okay.
From a coach, picking the mind of a coach, that's probably who I would go for.
Okay. That's fair.
And then, I'd probably want to punch Jed Fish in the face for leaving Arizona. So that'd probably get me kicked out of the bar.
Okay. Cool. I get it. I can understand. I think I would go, if I wanted to talk football and just understand a little more of the landscape of the difference between, Division 1, 2, 3, the layout, the recruiting. I'd probably go talk to Kurt Signetti because he's fresh off of like doing that with and making the jump to the Big Ten and doing it at a lower level. And it would just be I would just be interested to hear his take on that. And then like the caliber of athlete, like, so I have friends that like went to college at Mount Union here in Ohio, and the Purple Raiders are well known. They're like Wisconsin Whitewater and some of these at North Dakota State. Like they're around the playoffs. They sniff the playoffs every year. And so I've always been curious, like they kind of do more with less, so I'd be interested to hear about that from him. And
Was
like,
Signetti at Mount Union?
no, he was not.
Okay.
No.
Did he take James Madison from FCS to FBS?
Yes, correct.
He was the one. He was there during that
Yeah.
transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be a really interesting conversation. And then now jumping to Indiana, which isn't exactly big time, but he's trying to make them.
Yeah. I want to learn. Like I want to learn more. Like I want to learn more about the college game. I want to learn more about and because I wonder. I think about Deion Sanders, and everybody can have their own opinion on Deion Sanders, but going from where was he before with his son and
Jackson State.
And now going to Colorado, and now you got Feinbaum out there saying that he'd be fit at USC if Lincoln Riley is out after this year, because prime in LA, kind of thing.
That is one of the stupidest takes I've ever heard in my entire life. It's like I think Feinbaum is trying to out stupid Skip Bayless.
It's possible.
He's like, here, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, I don't know he's just turned into nothing but a shock jock.
Yeah. Well, clickbait, but I'm just, it's interesting to me because let's take his son, playing quarterback at Jackson State, right? And then goes with him to Colorado and plays well enough. Shedeur Sanders. And I'm just be curious about the level of competition, like how much of a gap is there really? Are we talking like 2/100ths of a second, or are we talking an entire second, in a 40? Those are the kind of things that I would just love to hear from somebody who's been like on the field, because game speed is also different than track speed. You're not like this is your thing, I think, right now with me and Jaden Ballard, like game speed and track speed. It is. I'm being honest with you. Like I'm not. Like we've talked about, like he's fast, but what are you going to do with it? You and Jacob both said that to me. So, so what is the, what's the correlation there? I just would like to learn more. It's just, I think he'd be somebody.
I think the gap is about 50 points a game, because that's usually how big the spread is when they play each other.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. All right. So, as promised a couple weeks ago, we are going to start as Big Ten Media Days kicks off. We are going to start our series on other teams' schedules, and we'll finish with Ohio State. And so I have it pulled up for us, Dan, on the screen and for all of our listeners. So Wisconsin, I'm starting with Wisconsin just because it's Luke Fickell. That's why I'm starting with it. It's Luke Fickell. Okay. I don't have any other rhyme or reason. That's why. So August 30th, they start off against Miami at Camp Randall Stadium, Miami of Ohio, not Miami of Florida, which that would have been funny.
I'm seeing Western Michigan.
What? Really?
The one you sent me in the notes is completely different. It starts with Western Michigan and South Dakota. Oh, that's okay. 20.
Oh, shoot. I have the wrong one up.
You have the 25 schedule up.
Yeah, hang on. Let me, that's my bad. I downloaded the wrong dang schedule. Good job, Chad.
Just go to the notes you sent me, and it's on there.
I'm working on it. All right. Notes. This is taking a second, Dan. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You want me to start talking about it while you're doing it? So their first game's they open up at home against Western Michigan.
I'm just going to use this. And
then they play South Dakota. Now, is that Is that the South Dakota that just I think won the FCS?
Yeah, it is.
Or is South Dakota State the one that did that? And is there a difference?
Oh yes, I think it was South Dakota State that did this. Yeah, so they opened up against Western Michigan, then South Dakota.
I don't think that's the one that just won the FCS because the one that just won the FCS, the colors are I want to say yellow and blue.
They are, yeah. That's not the same one.
Okay, so obviously a couple warm ups.
Yeah, Western Michigan can sling the ball around a little bit, but I don't think.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the talent and the depth chart went out for Nebraska or Wisconsin there.
Yeah.
South Dakota, same thing. And then they host, surprisingly, Alabama comes north and northwest for an 11 a.m. kickoff. Guess it's a first test for both.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's going to be a good test. It's you know you don't usually see an SEC team come north of the Mason-Dixon line.
Not often.
You know, um, we're probably going to see it more here in the future with the playoff in the first round of the playoff. But yeah, I mean that's going to be DeBoer's first big test. I think Camp Randall's probably going to be going off that day, and anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. It for sure. So I would say win-win, and I'm going to go loss against Alabama, closer than the experts think, as our buddy Lee Corso would say. And then they go to USC. I have USC winning that one late on a field goal. What do you think?
I've got Wisconsin winning it only because they have an off week between that Bama game.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal on a turnaround going out to the West Coast.
Okay.
I think USC is going to really struggle this year.
Okay. Cool. And then they go to Purdue, or say at home against Purdue. I think they win and win big, probably by 3 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, agreed.
And then they go to Rutgers. I think they lose this one by 4. I think Rutgers gets a win in Piscataway, probably on some sort of trickeration from the special teams with Schiano as coach.
Yeah, him and Fickle, were they on the staff together?
They were
at Ohio State. So
yeah, for 1 year, I believe.
They're very familiar with each other. It's an interesting game, interesting matchup of what I would say are second tier Big Ten teams. You're not usually used to saying that about Rutgers, but Schiano's just a damn good coach, and for whatever reason, that program and him are, jive with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be a really good game, but I do have Rutgers coming out on top in the end.
I was trying to see. I don't see that they were actually on the staff together, believe it or not. But yeah, so I think they lose that one close. At Northwestern in Evanston, I think Nebraska dog walks Northwestern, even as much as I like their coach. I think they pull away late and win that one by at least 10.
I think Northwestern is going to be a tough out for people this year.
I'm not saying they won't be in it. I just don't.
Northwestern, mainly because of the atmosphere of playing at Wrigley Field.
Okay.
I just think it's going to be a bizarre. Like I'm a little worried about us when we go out there. I don't
like to go there. So it's another it's like Purdue. I don't like to go to Purdue. So
just the whole Wrigley Field thing this year is just bizarre.
Yeah. I wanted to go to that game, but I'm not paying $400 for tickets. Sorry. So they get Penn State at home for their homecoming game. I think Nebraska squeaks this one out. I think this is another one of those games where Penn State, because of their coaching, I feel like they make a misstep somewhere and Nebraska takes advantage and Matt Rule gets a top tier win against a top 15 opponent at home for homecoming.
Wait a minute, you just skipped from Penn State to Nebraska.
Or excuse me, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin gets a win at home against Penn State for homecoming. And
Interesting.
I think it's going to be a night game. I think it's going to be 6:30 p.m. And so it's going to be a night game at Camp Randall against Penn State. And
I'd have to look at the rest of the schedule
and
to see
Fickle gets a
if it gets chosen as the big noon kickoff. That could be a big noon kickoff candidate too.
I hope not. Stop screwing it up, Big Noon. But because if it was Ohio State, it would be Big Noon probably. But yeah, I'd love that to be a night game. And then they're playing jump around about 9:00 at night, and that stadium's rocking. And Fickle, he'll have his guys ready to play, and I don't have any confidence in James Franklin. So I think Wisconsin sneaks that one out.
Why can't Fox create like a big primetime kickoff?
That would be perfect. Do it. Send that into them. Wisconsin goes to Iowa. Dan, what do you think here?
You're probably looking at a 13-9 game.
Mm-hmm. It's a November game.
Iowa did hire a legitimate offensive coordinator this year. I think the guy was like 70, so I'm not sure what that's all about. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Iowa at home, I give the edge to Iowa.
Yeah, same. Field goal. Yeah. All right, and then Wisconsin gets Oregon at home at Camp Randall, and it's going to be a freaking big noon kickoff at 11 a.m. their time.
Can you click on Oregon to see who they play the week before?
Yeah.
On November 9th?
Maybe not. I'll get their schedule up.
Okay. I mean, that's a game I've got circled as a trap game for Oregon.
Yeah.
I just think, number one, I don't think that'll be a night game.
They have Maryland.
Where?
At Oregon.
Interesting. On the 9th?
Yeah.
So Wisconsin's got an off week, going into that game. So I've got that as a trap game for Oregon. I can see that's where Oregon, if Oregon's going to slip up outside of the, Ohio State and Michigan games.
Oregon has a pretty not fun second half of the schedule.
Yeah.
So they play us, then they play at Purdue, they play Illinois, and then at Michigan, and then they have Maryland, and then Wisconsin and Washington. So 9-3, that's where I have them. I'm not changing it.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to call the shot now. I think Wisconsin upsets Oregon that week.
Okay, that's possible. I mean, they got to come, ready to play at Camp Randall. I hope it's a night game. It won't be. Big Noon will pick that up. And then they roll on out of that week to Nebraska, at Nebraska. Is Matt Rule in his first year going to have Nebraska, first year at Nebraska, excuse me, not first time head coach? What do you think?
I think you might see Raiola throw the ball 40 times that game.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking Oregon versus Nebraska. See, this is a tough one, man. You just got two really, really well-coached teams. I think a lot of it depends on what Nebraska's done up to this point, and whether or not they have some momentum. If they start the season out 6-0 or 7-0 before they play us, then they could be on, vying for a really, really good season.
They've done that before, and they've been a top 10 team. They came to Ohio State at night and got obliterated.
Yeah. I'll go with the home team in that one. I'll go with Nebraska.
Okay. Fair enough. I think it's a toss-up game, so I'm going to agree with you. I think the home team, and I'll take the field goal. And then they get Minnesota at home on a Friday. It's freaking Friday games.
That's a Saturday.
Why does that say FRI, November 29th, Friday?
Well, the schedule you sent me says Saturday, November 30th.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. But it does say 11 a.m., so that would be super weird. Maybe they moved it back a day. So they get Minnesota at home. kind of a rivalry game, if you want to call it that, neighbors game, whatever. I'll take Wisconsin, and I'll take Wisconsin big in that game.
Well, the reason it says 11 a.m. and Friday is because that's the Friday after Thanksgiving. So remember, there's some
Yeah.
games
I
on
always
that day.
forget about that holiday. Okay.
So yeah, I'll take Wisconsin at home to end up the season there.
Yep. Yep. All right, folks, you've heard it here first. So that would give them, by the Dan and Chad math, so one win Western Michigan, one win South Dakota, a loss to Bama. That puts them at 2-1. You had them beating USC, correct?
Yes.
So you have them at 3-1. I have them at 2-2. I have them beating Purdue, so that would be 4-1 for you, 3-2 for me. Rutgers, I have them losing, so that would put them at 3-3. What did you say about Rutgers?
I had them losing a close one at Rutgers. I've got them at 9-4.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this and keep track so that I'm not.
Well, so I was just adding mine up.
Teams, yeah.
So I was just adding mine up. So I have them beating Minnesota, losing to Nebraska, losing to Oregon. So that's 1-2, 1-3, 2-4. Yeah. So I have them finishing 7-6 technically.
You got Luke Fickle on the hot seat at the end of this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're going to be a much better team than they were last year. In Luke's second year.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I don't even have any hot takes. Ryan Day is on at a little later today. If you're watching the Big Ten Network or you have the Big Ten Network, just a reminder, he'll be speaking at 12:45 ish this afternoon. So if you want to tune into that and catch any of the Ryan Day isms, feel free to do that. But I'm just excited. We're just inching closer to football. So one last little note, if you're still with us, we're starting to roll this out. We're starting to put the word out. We will have more content coming during the season. So we're still working out how that looks and what it looks like, but we are going to do a little bit more content. I won't say a lot more, probably one more episode a week. Dan and I do this for fun. So, yeah. And we got families and stuff, but wanted to let you guys know that we heard you, we understand. So we're working on how that looks and what that layout looks like.
Yes, sir. It could be fun.
It will be. All right, guys. You guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday for Buckeye Friday because Big Ten Media Days are here. We'll start calling them for real Buckeye Fridays because next week we start rolling into fall camp. You guys have a good week. Thanks. Stay safe as always. Go Bucks.